In this release, the Linestring by station command has taken a significant enhancement in response to requests for customers wanting to do beach profile surveys. And what I've got on screen here is some example alignments, which are the lines behind the scenes here, and then beach profile survey points that were measured on a beach profile. And this was a request that we got from more than one customer actually over the last 2 years, but more recently from one customer in Australia that wanted to do this and make longitudinal profiles for each of these beach profiles fully automatically. So we took a chance of looking at the Linestring by station command and trying to improve it to make this work process easier, and then we can lead this data into the corridor modeling and the drafting functionality of TBC to produce longitudinal profiles for the beach profiles, like you can see in the write-up on this release notes. So to start off with, the Linestring by station command still resides here on the data prep menu in the create and edit group. If we run the command, you'll see that it's taken a significant change from its previous look and feel, which was much simpler. And in here, what we can do is we can define styles. Because you need to define things like line names and layer names for the lines that you're going to create, and then you might do adjustments of the points, because in these points you can see that these points, while they were meant to be surveyed on these lines, you'll never survey them exactly on the line, so we want to pull the coordinate points onto the line in some situations. So we can adjust the points onto line, but then we do that, we create a copy of the points and leave the originals alone, and we create those on a new layer as needed. And because you're going to be defining these new line names and layer names using what we call a text style or a template style, and these template styles use these codes at the bottom here. So our command tips give you the information, so like description, feature code, layer of the points, the reference layer of the reference lines that you select, and the reference name of the reference lines that you select. As we map the points to the lines and then join them together, we create lines on layers and we create adjusted points on layers, so that we can create the data that's required for the profiling. Now in addition, you can do things like now mapping multiple points to multiple lines. So instead of it just being one line as your reference line, you can have hundreds of reference lines, and we just map the points by proximity to those reference lines. And you can decide how you want to process the information. So in this case, I'm just going to pick up here this sub-beach profile, which is using rock is R, sand is S, and V is vegetation, and P are photo points. And this is coding that's found on the description 1 field of each of the points. So if I actually click on one of these points here, for example this one right here, you can see this one is coded with an S as description 1. It didn't have a feature code because we've reserved that for people that want to give them profile numbers, so we added the ability to read description 1 in the coding functionality here. So what we do is we now sort the data into the codes. We then join the points with the same codes together after they've been pulled onto the reference line. So in here you can say use points with common description for joining the lines. You can then say put the layer, the points, the lines on this adjustment layer. So you can say use a layer name of the layer of the points with the description of the points, and then dash ADJ for the adjusted points, for example. And then you can say you want to create the points on the lines, you want to pull the points onto a line here, and you want to create a layer using the layer name of the points, the description of the points, and ADJ for adjustment. And then here you can then say don't join points together if they're more than 50 meters apart, and use 10 meters as the proximity. So if a point is closer to this line than this line, as long as it's within this range that you specify, and you can see this is 20 meters, so the points are further apart typically than 10 meters, so you could go any distance as long as you can uniquely map the points to the lines that you're working with. And then all we need to do is pick all the points that we want to work with here, and then we can pick the reference lines that we want to work with, and in this case we're picking multiple reference lines, and then we can hit the apply button. And what that just did here was it created you a series of beach profiles along this main alignment. You can now see there's a set of points along the main line. If I go over to my view filters over here, the points themselves were imported on the points layer, so if I turn those off, you can see they've disappeared. And now I can see these points on here. If I turn off the alignments, which I think are on layer 0, then now you're looking at the beach profiles. And if we take a look at those in 3D, let's map this up on its own, you can see here that we've got multiple profiles for different types of object. So in here we're looking at the rock information, and in here we're looking at the sand information, for example. And these layers were created, but we don't map colors when we do that. So if you want to go back to the layer manager, you can then go into things like the photo points and say, let's say that layer is going to be cyan and the rock is going to be, let's say, brown, and the sand is going to be, let's say, yellow, and then say close. And so now you can see very clearly the different profiles of those different materials. Now if you want to actually create all the profiles for the complete line, irrespective of whether it's sand, rock or vegetation, then we can do the same thing again. So I'll turn the points layer on this, I'll turn these layers off, and now we'll just say this time we're going to do the full beach profile, and we're going to use the settings and parameters in here. Again, pick the same points, pick the same lines, and then hit apply, and that now created me a profile for each of the beach profiles from start to finish using the incremental point. And you can see now these profiles, and the goal of this is to try to produce the line work that can then be used. If we make these into corridor models, we can then use a corridor for each of these alignments and then generate profile drawings with the European or the US style profile grids with drop lines and information boxes beneath them, so that you can produce drawings that look something like this in a fully automated way. So in this case we've got the the drawing outline, the title box borders, we've got our profile drawings, and then you can add photographs if you like for the photo points, and then this is the photo point marker that's placed here. And then you can superimpose previous years profiles or previous surveys profiles onto the same drawing, and then put legends on the drawing and stuff like that. So you can produce like high quality drawings exceedingly quickly within the TBC environment, and have a high quality of output as you see fit. That's the new Linestring by station command. It also works for things like highways work, and if these reference lines were design lines that you have, and then these survey points represented features of the line like edge of pavement, lane markings, shoulder, then you could actually draw the lines between the points based on their proximity to design lines that you import. So these improvements don't just apply to beach and river surveys, they also apply to just highways work or anything where you've got point data that's been measured in relationship to an alignment or many alignments of a project, and it just simplifies and improves the speed. And the benefit of this is the styles allows you to pull back the styles for different types of work that you might do, so you don't have to remember what settings to use. You can just set the style once, and once you've got it working as you see fit, you can then just run everything you might need from there. And then you've got all the other commands up here that you might need to use along the way. So these are the other things that you might want to take a look at while you're working with the data. Okay, so that's the Linestring by station command. Fairly major improvements here, and allows you to generate much higher quality output extremely quickly from imported survey or measurement data. Okay, thank you.